Oh, Peachy Tuesday in impeachment land, United States of America, 2019, 10:01. Yeah. Um, I now understand why the Democrats have been screaming so hard to get this thing going and to crank it up during the recess. Why they're throwing subpoenas around like they're toilet paper. We've now found out that U.S. Attorney Durham and Bill Barr have both been soliciting foreign assistance in getting to the bottom of things. They started that. Yes, Trump has been applying a little bit of heat, but that's not where it began. We're talking Australia. We're talking Ukraine. I assume there's probably UK is probably involved in this too because, the whole steel thing. And apparently, if reports are believed, Italy. Now, I'm not sure what Italy has to do with this, but apparently there is some talk there too. All this has come out overnight. So you have that. You have the impending classification review of one of those reports that's going on right now. Apparently, has been written and done. You got Durham. Nobody knows exactly where he is. That guy is really good at keeping leaks from getting out. But he is one of those dudes that when he's after you, you pray you just never hear anything, but it almost never happens. What usually happens is you find out when the guy shows up with the indictment in his hand because he is really good at keeping a lid on whatever he's discovered and whatever he's got put through the grand jury. Very rarely does this get out there. So those people who have been in Congress for a long time, the Schumers, the Pelosi's, those folks, they're the ones that right now are dropping bricks out of their buttholes. What do you think this impeachment thing and this trumped up nonsense? And by the way, the IC Inspector General, he has admitted that they changed the forms. They did it to conform with the statute, so he says, okay, fine. That's okay if that's the truth. However, there are serious credibility problems with this so-called whistleblower report, which we now know. This supposed investigation by the ICIG allegedly found it credible, and yet we know for a fact that many of the allegations that were raised in there are factually wrong. In addition, there's another problem. Pompeo was apparently on the call. Pompeo's Secretary of State. If Pompeo was listening to the call, then there is a huge problem for the Democrats trying to push that call with the Ukrainian president as grounds for impeachment. Because as Secretary of State, his job is to be in the middle of this sort of thing between foreign governments and the United States. And it appears he was. Uh-oh. Oh, that wasn't brought up, was it? No, it wasn't. Why wasn't that part of the referral? Oh, gee. Probably because the guy that made the alleged referral made most of it up and didn't really know what the hell was going on. You want to know why it was all made up? You want to know why it had to happen right now? Because you got both Bill Barr and Durham who are about to drop a big fat turd in the punch bowl. And my guess is that both of them are not going to come up empty-handed, because if they were, the Democrats could care less. The people who tried to queer the 2016 elections that went after President Trump, we know that the renewals on that FISA warrant were perjured. We know that now. That has been established. The question is whether or not the origins were intentionally falsified. If that's established, folks, then you have a government that was sitting in power at the time that literally tried to run a coup on an American election. Would that be worth trying to throw a Hail Mary pass with impeachment? You bet. You need to start thinking very seriously, folks, about the crazies on both sides of the aisle, because there are crazies on both sides of the aisle. If this blows up in the left's face, and I think there's a decent chance it will, what are those crazies going to do? I don't know. but I'm not sure I want to find out, and I sure don't want to be in range if they decide that voting in a voting box isn't the way to vote anymore. Or there are people that are saying, well, Trump's never going to leave office. There'll be a civil war. Trump's not going to be ejected, folks. It's not going to happen. Yes, Mitch McConnell has acknowledged if he gets articles of impeachment that are voted out, and I have no doubt that the House will be able to vote them out. I have no doubt that they have the votes right now to do it. He will have to hold some kind of a trial. Has to. But most of the people who are screaming about this are not old enough to remember Bill Clinton being impeached. During that time, it was an attempt to get the Chief Justice, who's Rehnquist, who by law is the presider, Chief Justice, presider over the trial in the Senate, tried to get him to essentially issue a charge to the senators that sounded an awful lot like the kind of charge that a prosecutor would give to a jury. And Rehnquist refused. He said no. The charge he actually gave to the Senate was that you have no duty to consider any evidence at all. You may consider whatever you'd like. You don't need to judge fairly or impartially. That's not the point. Impeachment is a political process. You may take absolutely any or none of what you have presented before you, and you may vote however you damn well please, based on anything you damn well please, including pure political purpose. You need do nothing else. That's the truth. Impeachment isn't a criminal process, folks. It isn't a civil process. It's a political process. High crimes and misdemeanors or whatever the House says they are. Whether they constitute grounds for removal is entirely up to the Senate, and it takes a supermajority to say yes. Mitch McConnell can turn around and hold a 5-minute vote in which he says, do I have a process here to proceed? He can attempt to vote an adjournment on the impeachment if he wants to, and if he wins on that, it's over right then and there. I don't think he'll do that, but he could, and legally that would comply with the constitutional requirements. Nobody wants to face this, folks. President Trump's not going anywhere. Are there some rhinos who are participants in the 2016 debacle? Oh, you bet. McCain's probably one of them. He's dead. Ghost of McCain is still out there. You got people like Mitt Romney. You know what? Mittens, he may actually have a problem with his seat next time he comes around. A lot of these people in the Senate think that they're immune from this kind of thing because they're on 6-year cycles, so only a third of them have to stand at a time. Yeah, okay, maybe. But you got crazies on both sides of the aisle, folks. And they're both going to be very, very angry. I cannot think of a more irresponsible set of actions, knowing that Bill Barr and U.S. Attorney Durham have been working on this to attempt to short-circuit this with an impeachment claim, knowing that Secretary Pompeo was on the call with the Ukrainian president, which, by the way, instantly legitimates that call, not waiting to get that transcript before going and claiming their initiation of their investigation. Now they're throwing subpoenas around like the toilet paper. It's the most irresponsible thing I have seen a Congress do during my lifetime. And I remember President Nixon being threatened with impeachment and resigning. And you know what? If instead of erasing those tapes, he had just stood up and dared them to do it, well, if he hadn't had them at all, I don't know that they would have had the guts to remove him. But as it stood, the fact that there was a gap in it, that was enough. That was enough. And rather than go through it, he said, okay, I'll leave. And then he got pardoned, of course, on the way out the door, which probably cost Ford a full term. This, however, rises to an entirely different level. This entire impeachment so-called inquiry appears to be nothing more than an attempt to cover up the Democrats' own crimes. And maybe those are some people on the Republican side of the aisle, too. I hope I'm wrong about this, but I don't think so. I think that the crap is about to hit the fan from both Durham and Barr. And given the timeline and the fact that both of them have been out there soliciting foreign leaders, that this all ties together is pretty much an established fact at this point, folks. We're going to see how this works out. But I think pay attention to the crazies on both sides of the aisle, okay? This could get pretty sporty. And I don't want to think about the idea of people voting from roofs instead of in voting boxes. But if you think it can't happen here with the kind of irresponsible nonsense that Pelosi has put out there in this kind of a case, and people like Schiff, well, you're wrong, folks. You're dead wrong. You're going to have people on both sides of this, I suspect. The far left fringe, the far right fringe, that 3-4% on each side, both of them are going to be enraged. I think it's coming. Just be careful, folks. I don't like what I smell here. It smells like dead fish. Well, I'm your ticker guy. And that's my view.